Well, hey there, folks. A quick note for you before we get into the episode here. This podcast was originally presented as a live stream video back on May 17th, featuring my interview with Dr. Brainstorm, the writer of Thunderclash Goes Bananas. I note that for two reasons. First, being that there's a fair amount of, hey, look at this, that really only kind of works on the video as we're talking about the actual art in the comic book. But also because there's some dates and goals for the crowdfunding campaign that are now out of date. Stick around through the end of the credits. After all the music, I'll come back and give you an update on the campaign and how you can get your copy of Thunderclash Goes Bananas. And you can watch that live stream video as it happened live of the original interview out on the Mike Seibert Radio Podcast YouTube page.
July 2023, the Pacific Northwest will be transformed. Don't miss Seibfest Northwest. Featuring special guest Paul Eiding, the voice of Perceptor. Panels hosted by Mike Seibert Radio Podcast. Robotics, contests and trivia. Local artists and dealers. Exciting raffle prizes. A Transformers experience by the fans, for the fans. Get your own exclusive Generation Zero transforming action figure. This Cybertronian festival features the Bumblebee Camaro inspired by the films. July 8th at Kent Commons Community Center. Immerse yourself in Seibfest Northwest. More at SeibfestNW.com. 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 SeibfestNW.com.
Seibert Radio, we're about to start the show. We talk about stuff and things, lots of guests, in-depth interviewing. Mike Seibert Radio, it's nobody's favorite show. Movies, comics, video games, and TV. And we also can guarantee that it's not gonna be that funny, but that's okay. Volume in your headphones. The podcast at last is starting. It's time for Mike Seibert Radio.
It's spinning. Oh, and it says live. Oh my God, you are live! Exclamation point. How exciting. Well, welcome back to Mike Seibert Radio. I am your host, and today we are talking about a very special project benefiting a very special cause. You might remember last year when we did the artist spotlight on Ashley Artley, who will be appearing at this year's Seibfest Northwest. And as a quick reminder, Seibfest Northwest is coming up this July 8th. My gosh, it's happening soon. July 8th, 2023 at the Kent Commons Community Center here in Kent, Washington, where you can buy arts from Ashley Artley along with all of her other stuff. But anyway, last year, we, in addition to talking about all of the cool arts that Ashley does, we also talked about a project that she's a part of called Thunderclash Goes Bananas, which, if that title alone isn't enough to get you interested in this project, you know, she debuted a pinup, which is just this spectacular print of, or cover basically, of Skyquake, kind of flanked by a troop of gorillas, and it's like, this is what you're in for. And she told us a little bit about that project, but guess what? The project is now here available for ordering through a coffee site, which we're going to talk about in a few. But I was very eager to come back around to this project and wrap my arms around this project and to share it with as many people who would be interested in hearing about how, especially at a time when the beasts are about to rise, that this seems like a perfect timed book for some beasts and some robots to interact in a Transformer space. And joining me on the Mike Seibert Radio podcast live stream is the writer of Thunderclash Goes Bananas. It's you might know him on Twitter as Dr. Brainstorm. It is Joseph England. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. The Rise of the Beasts crossover is a happy coincidence. It was not planned, but it does seem to have boosted some of the social media algorithms in our favor. So that's one of those nice little coincidences.
Absolutely. Ooh. So every live stream or every podcast is somebody's first episode, first podcast, first show. And a lot of folks know your stuff on Twitter, where you repost various, writers and artists and are prolific in the Transformers fandom. But before we get into Thunderclash Goes Bananas and how that project came along and some of the details about that, could you talk a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself a little bit to us, and then from there, let's kind of talk about your Transformers origin story and why you like Transformers, and from there we'll get into the book. So no small thing, but yeah, just a little quick get to know you sesh.
Just my autobiography. I'm Joseph. I am an Australian, as you can probably tell. I have grown up in a relatively small place in the pointy bit of Australia, the top of Queensland. And when did I get into Transformers? I do not remember a time in my life when I wasn't into Transformers. My grandparents had a lot of children. So my youngest uncle is actually only about 10 years older than me. And he had all of the Transformers from 1984. And when he sort of hit 12, 13 and outgrew them, I was just hitting sort of 4 or 5, and he just handed them to me. So I had, G1, because I was late to G1, because I'm actually an 88 baby.
Okay.
So I got, Defensor, Optimus Prime, just a bunch. I remember vaguely having Starscream at one point, but I cannot remember a time in my life when I didn't have a Transformer. I still have my original G1 First Aid. He is no longer white. He is a very sort of yellow First Aid, but he exists. And so I've always been into it. The first time I bought myself something with my own sort of money was the Machine Wars line, of all things. I got the Optimus Prime and the Sandstorm, who of course are relevant to this because they are repaints of Thunderclash and Rotorstorm of the Turbo Master.
Yeah.
It's just always been with me. I got really into James Roberts' IDW, Matumti, and all of those runs back in, that was about 2014, 2015, I discovered that. Now that I've recently finished my qualifications as a doctor, and so I no longer have to study or study a lot. And so I've been able to sort of turn my hobbies back up, and so I've started collecting again. I've started writing again, and that's sort of what it is. It's just always been, my most watched piece of media is probably the G1 movie.
Sure.
I have an old burnt out videotape of taped off the television of 5 episodes from season 3 of G1. I was exactly the right age when Beast Wars hit. So it's just always been there. Yeah.
That's awesome, and it's fascinating as I've gotten more into Transformers fandom and have made friendships with other folks from other parts of the world. I'm fascinated by how other folks have interacted with the Transformers, and I'm glad you brought up the Machine Wars, because I just recently listened to the Triple Takeover episode where they were talking about Machine Wars, and really I learned a whole lot about that. I almost, when you were saying like, well, because for a certain generations of folks, that's kind of their Optimus Prime. Yeah. A lot of folks kind of think
he's got a face. He doesn't have a mouth plate. So yeah.
And it's also interesting too, like getting into some of the characters that we're going to discuss in Thunderclash Goes Bananas. They are G1 characters, but they're later G1 characters, and they're because of the availability of these toys in territories outside of the U.S., there's a lot of folks, myself included, that don't really have as much of a tether to these characters. Like, really, I didn't meet Thunderclash until, like you said, the More Than Meets the Eye James Roberts series. And when he showed up, I was just like, oh, well, this seems to be a guy that's a guy, and then later on when they incorporated Star Saber, and, like, I love those comics because they introduced to an American audience a lot of these pardon the phrase, foreign or exotic characters that we didn't really have a connection to. So it's always fascinating to learn more about these characters that folks on my side of the world didn't necessarily grow up with or have those specific tether to.
Yeah, and the Turbo Masters, the Predators, Thew Adams, famously big fan of the Predators. They've got fans, but they're never in anything.
Yes,
and it's because of what you said. They weren't American. I don't even think they were released in America. They're what we call European G1. My grandparents are English. They lived in the UK, and so I would just get, and I'm sure they were released here, but I cannot tell you when or how I acquired them. But I had Boss and Flash growing up, and I got the Aquaspeeders and the Accelerators and all these niche European G1.5 things that for me were the Transformers, because I missed everything but the back half of G1.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, why is my guy not in anything? Why is he not important? But yeah, no, it's good. And if you go through James Roberts in particular grew up reading Marvel UK, Nick Roche and all that. They like squeezing these guys in. Like Last Stand of the Wreckers is the Predators. It's the opening scene is spoilers, Overlord just killing Skyquake, and
right.
To a lot of people, they're like, they could have made that guy up. They could have made both of those characters up. There are probably people out there who would say, oh, who are these guys? This is really cool, but, James Roberts OC do not steal sort of situation.
That's an interesting way of putting it. I like that. And again, like we were saying, some of these characters and situations are new for a lot of fans, to the point where they do kind of feel like new characters in a way, as opposed to, it's like, no, These guys are G1s.
Yeah,
yeah. So let's talk about the inspiration for the project we're talking about. We're talking about Thunderclash Goes Bananas, and basically it's a let me find the post here in the coffee that explains what it is. It's
rattle it off for you. 60-page collection, 48-page main story, 12 pages of bonus content featuring some of the biggest and best-known fan artists in the Transformers fan art community, among which I don't count myself, but will hopefully rise from the ranks. But so it's fully crowdfunded, fully fan-produced original story that I wrote, that Jim agreed to draw and expanded from there. And we basically decided very early on that we should get as many people involved as possible and try and make a big thing of it. And so far, it looks like that's succeeding, which is fantastic. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are killing it. Like I did in my previous podcast, I had said something to the effect of when I scheduled this interview with you to talk about the project, and I've supported a lot of crowdfunders and a lot of like independent projects and like zines and all kinds of cool stuff, and it's sometimes difficult to anticipate how something is going to hit. And usually with stuff like this, it's like, I just want to get the word out. It's like, I believe in this project. I'm friends with the folks that are putting it out. It's like, let's put some eyes on it. And I'll confess that there was a part of me, because it is a little niche, it has, older G1 characters, exotic.
Niche is very generous for what this is.
Yes, it's very specific. Let's put it that way. It's very, very, which is perfect for a fan-made comic, because like it gives you guys the freedom to do all kinds of cool stuff that you can go nuts. You could go bananas in, much like Thunderclash and his friends. But no, there was a part of me that was like, oh man, is it going to be like, come on guys, let's wrap our arms around this. Toy Foo is awesome. Mary's Meals is awesome. Let's really support it. But then what was it? Within less than a week, you had 100%. Already smashed.
Yeah,
100%. I'd even made a joke. It's like, wouldn't it be something if it was over 100% before this interview? This was late last week, I think.
I was hoping to come on and be like, oh yeah, and I can announce that we're fully funded, and that happened 4 days ago.
Yeah, that's old news. So the book.
I woke up on Monday and found that Jim had doubled the goal. Because we're 12 hours apart. So when I'm waking up, Jim's in the UK. It's nighttime over there, and he was like, "Yeah, man, it's done really well. We hit 100. I've picked a new goal. It's $3,000." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." I slept through all of that, but fantastic.
That's got to be disorientating at times, being time delayed from your collaborators.
Yeah, it would be if it wasn't almost exactly 12 hours, because we are both awake doing, it's for him it's bedtime with the kids, for me it's school time with the kids,
right.
And so it's very much there's an hour or two in the morning and the evening where no one's really, one of us is ending the day and one of us is starting the day, and we can get a good bit of discussion going on. But there are times when, you're just like, oh man, I really want to, I got to tell Jim something, and you're just left on red for 6 hours because he's asleep, because of course he is. It's midnight over there,
Right. Gotcha. Well, and it's truly a international effort. You know, it's like you've got folks working from the States. You got you down in Australia. You got folks in Europe. And before we as we kind of transition into talking about some of the collaborators and some of like the really, really cool folks that you've got contributing to this project, I'm a sucker for an origin story. Sure. So what I would like to talk about is how does something like this come to be? Like there had to be some kind of lightning bolt moment where it's just like, well, not only are we going to do a story with the Turbo Masters and the Predators, but you know what? What if they were monkeys? You know, it's like, so how does that happen?
So Gav put up on, I was in the throes of amateur writing, and I was starting to work on some comic scripts. I'd done quite a few creator-owned original concept scripts that no one really wanted to read or pay any attention to because I didn't have any other work to my name. And Gav put up a picture, which you showed off with Ash. I was watching that interview. Of a fake Marvel UK cover that was called Thunderclash Goes Bananas, and he just picked the name because it was Thunderclash standing on his firing platform, shooting a lot of people. So Thunderclash has gone bananas. Yeah. But Gav famously loves monkeys.
Okay.
So Gav is the presenter of TRDQ, the Transformers Reviews Done Quick channel. You should check him out. Very good stuff. And he has a monkey shelf, and it has, Optimus Primal and Optimus Minor and who's this Ape Face and Baboom and all of those. Every Transformer that's ever turned into something simian he sort of has on that shelf. And I thought, Gav, with that, that title is just perfect. Beast modes exist. Thunderclash never gets anything done with him. I'll just write a story about Thunderclash acquiring a beast mode, and then the title will make sense. And I hit up Gav. I just said, hey, Gav, I'm a nobody. Can I write a story based on your picture? And he said, go nuts. I don't think he ever expected to hear anything about it ever again. And I'm sure he deeply regrets that decision. But I sort of, I was between, I just sat my exams, and it's about 3 months before you get your results back. And so I was just sort of filling the time that I would normally set aside for studying, just typing out a story, and I bashed out something that I thought was pretty good. But I was like, well, I still need someone to draw it. And just by coincidence, I'd been following Jim Stafford at Occupy Iacon. He's very, very good. You should all check him out as well. He did a cover for Last Spot Standing, the IDW series, which is how I found him. And he posted just a tweet that said, I've done some cover work. I'd really like some practice on an interiors. Does anyone have a quick fan comic they'd like me to draw? And I took the plunge. I just said, look, Jim, it's not short, but have a read, and I'd love it if you could draw even a page for me just to sell the idea. And he said, yeah, man. And he started drawing it, and it went really well. And he got to sort of 3 or 4 pages in, and he said, I think this has legs. And he posted the pages as he was going on his Twitter feed, and it would always get a very, very positive response. And he said, look, I think this really has legs. I can't draw 48 pages, but I know some other artists who'd be interested. We actually found Ashley first because she commented on one of the page, I can't remember which one, saying, oh man, I'd love to be involved in something like this. And I went to her profile and I was like, Jim, got to get Ash. No question, if we're looking for artists, offer it to Ashley. And so Ash signed up, and we were stuck. Jim knew and has worked with Nate Phoenix for a long time. I think he's just at Nate Phoenix. I'll have to double check that one. And he said, yep, he'd be interested in doing it. And we were stuck for a long time with issue 4. We didn't have anyone attached for a couple of months. And so I just said, well, Gav started all this. Why don't we just offer it to him? And we reached out, and he liked what Jim had done, and by then the sort of charity plan was set in motion, and he likes Toy Fu. He's a big supporter of Nick and the boys at Toy Fu, and that was that. He said yes, and we sort of became this little group that was. At Nate Phoenix 83. I knew there was a number on the end. I couldn't remember what it was. We became this little group, and away it went. So, yeah, just one of those everything lined up at the right time sort of situations.
Well, and that was going to be one of the other follow-up questions I had, because I remember when I talked to Ashley last year, and when she was talking about the work that she was doing on Thunderclash Goes Bananas, she kept referring to it as the second issue. So like when the crowdfunder started on the coffee site, which is ko-fi.com /Thunderclash Goes Bananas. I'll have there's a link in the show notes already, but because I don't remember if it's Ko-fi or coffee.
I don't remember either.
I don't know. It's just ko-fi. There you go.
Click on it. Yeah.
Or follow us all on socials and then just find it from there, because we've been aggressively tweeting it. But anyway, so it's like, so I thought going in that it was going to be like a multi-issue project. So when I saw the crowdfunder on Coffee come up, I was a little confused about so is this like the full story? Is this just the first issue? But then I started getting more into the posts and seeing the preview that you had sent me. I was like, oh, this is 60 pages, 48 pages of content. Oh my gosh, this is the whole darn thing. So this is all in one big story. So I guess my question is when is that a creative decision or a production decision? At what point did this become, instead of separate issues, one thing? Or was it always one thing?
So on Gav's cover, it says at the top, which is a reference to the original Marvel Transformers series, it says part 1 of a 4-issue miniseries. And I was like, well, okay, the criteria are set. And so I just wrote, and I wanted practice at, because everything I'd written so far had been a contained single 12-page story. And I thought I've got the opportunity, I'll practice writing a continuing story across multiple issues. And so I sort of wrote it in the style, in my head, this is sort of the beginning of the second act of a long Turbo Masters running series that is exists purely up here. That I would love to, if anyone from whoever has the comics license wants to use those characters, oh my god, I have a pitch for you. It's ready to go. But it was, so I thought, well, we'll pretend it's just an ongoing, and I'll write it as 4 issues, like Gav's poster says. And it just turned into this natural breaking point where Jim said, well, I can do 12, and we'll get someone else, and we'll each do 12 pages of our own. But it wasn't until we started actually doing the research on the costings of printing that we came up with the 60 pages thing. So Jim was like, yeah, no, it costs this much to print 48 pages, but it's only 50 cents more or something to print 60 pages. That's the most we can fit in a book. Why don't we expand this and see if we can get other contributors and make it feel like a real trade paperback with, like, you know, alternate covers and a letters page and maybe some fake ads and things like that. And again, really good idea. The whole project lives and dies on Jim's. You know, I wrote it, but Jim is the man who's sort of really made it what it is. And I was like, yeah, that's incredible. Do you think anyone will be up for it? And sure enough, people were. But yeah, it was always written as a 4-issue series, and it was always the plan to draw it as a complete story. But yeah, just the realities of printing and things have made some changes. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, and this is cool because it gives you the opportunity to do all those extra goodies, like you were talking about, you know, like the letters pages and the pinups and other cool things that we'll talk about a little bit later. But I'm going to do a quick screen share here, and I'm going to talk. I'm going to share a screen for the actual coffee campaign. And again, it's ko-fi.com/Thunderclash Goes Bananas with some terrific trade dress there. Who designed that logo, by the way?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was Jim.
Okay.
I know. Yeah. Jim's a graphic designer by trade, and I'm 99% sure that that's an original font that he made. I think the Goes Bananas actually comes from the Herbie Goes Bananas, the movie.
Okay. Of course. Oh my gosh, I was today years old when I made that connection. I did not even think to connect the two there.
I didn't know that until he told me. I just assumed it was, you know, because people say Goes Bananas. I've never seen Herbie Goes Bananas. I'm sure it's very good. It's obviously quite popular. But I promise you, any references to it in the story are completely coincidental. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that Jim came up with that himself. It's quite nice. I'd certainly like it. If he didn't come up with it himself, whoever did, thumbs up.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's really neat. And so going through the coffee page, it's a little different than your typical crowdfunder, like say like an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter or one of those types of things. It's basically. I mean, there's a landing page, which again, there's links for it for you to check out. Very clean, very simple. It's based on donations. So like currently, as we see here, that it's currently at 63% of the stretch goal. And I like the way that this was phrased. It's like, so after smashing that first goal, like we talked about, Joseph, now it's a good news, bad news situation. Good news is that Toy Foo will be seeing a nice chunk of money to send on and help feed hungry kids. The bad news is that we could do even better if we can order 250 copies. Our unit cost will drop further, sending even more cash in the right direction. So the goal here is to have more money in the crowdfunder so that they can print more copies and minimizing those print costs. And then that way there's more copies out in the world, which is terrific. So you can get the book Thunderclash Goes Bananas a couple different ways. Again, you could donate through the coffee site, and in the shop, there's two different options. There's you can order it on digital, get a digital only copy, or you could be like me and get the print only copy. In fact, actually, I might get both. I might get the digital and the print only. But like I like having something tangible in hand, and especially like if it's a crowdfunder thing, I like the feeling of having like it's like, oh, I helped do this. You know what I mean? It's like it's It's a really cool thing there. So now, being American, currency is not my first best strength. Is this are these amounts in pound sterling? Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, they're in UK pounds at the moment.
UK pounds. Okay, very good.
Which Google tells me is about $1.25 US.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's so pretty darn close to kind of close to even there.
Yeah.
Very nice. And it's interesting. I have a couple other friends from Australia as well, and it's odd sometimes when we talk about like other countries' currency. And it's like, oh, well, but then we start talking about dollars, and it's like, well, wait a second, are you talking U.S. dollars or Australian dollars? Because it's all dollars, but obviously very different.
If the number's about a third higher than you feel it should be, it's the Australian dollar.
There it is.
Our leader toys are 90 of our Antipodean dollars, at best. Which presumably sounds outrageous to an American, but I believe at the moment that's something like the equivalent of about 55 US. So yeah, it's when you collect in Australia, you have to factor in about another 30% of the price of what you're paying for shipping.
Right.
It's we are the world's largest island nation. It would be nice if Hasbro and places would help us out a little bit there. We don't need Pulse, but we wouldn't mind it,
Yeah, I mean and it's interesting, just a tangent aside, Pulse has announced that they're expanding into Asian territories, and it seems like with as many Transformers fans that I know that happen to live in Australia, it seems like it would be a good opportunity to at least try to help you guys out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But
the struggles of getting HasLabs. I own the HasLab Unicron, and when it was announced, there was it probably was shorter than 2 weeks, but it felt like it was a 2-week period where everyone was going, oh my God, how can we sign up for this, and how on earth are we going to afford to ship it to us? And thankfully, one of our local retailers came through for us, and is now it must have been a success because they've supported every single one of them since. So I got Star Saber and I'm getting Death Saurus through them as well. So, it was, you see some nice things that just never turn up here. There's a lot of hunting that happens sometimes.
Yeah, I've always kind of wondered about that. It's like, are there gaps in folks' collections just because of scarcity, lack of availability, or just stuff that you guys don't want? It's sometimes tough to tell.
There are whole waves that never appear here.
Right.
Yeah.
I would imagine that retailer exclusives have got to be particularly hard. I don't know if like Target and Walmart is on the docket. I don't think Cosmos is making his way down under, unfortunately.
We got one of the local department stores did get the Velocitron sets in. They occasionally someone does bite that hook and does it. And I don't know what it was like in the major cities, but here, if you could find a Cosmos, you were doing pretty well. I think I saw a Scourge once, and that's about it. So, but they every now and then they do come through, but no, quite a lot of stuff is either online orders or you got to really decide how much you want it.
Gotcha. Well, transitioning back to the book, Thunderclash Goes Bananas, and the the outreach that you guys are doing with it. So it's a Transformers fan comic produced in association with Toy Foo in aid of Mary's Meals. And for me, being on this side of the fandom, both of those entities are kind of new and kind of unknown. I'm not particularly familiar with Mary's Meals, and I've heard of Toy Foo, but I'm not specifically familiar. So maybe folks like myself who are learning about them for the first time and learning who this book benefits and support. Could you talk about them for a few?
Sure. So Toy Foo is a primarily UK-based charity that goes to the conventions in the UK and sells Transformers. They every year Thew does a sort of ramp up video for them where he walks through the stuff that they've acquired through their eBay trawlings and things, and they find quite a lot of really good stuff. You know, they've got at least one Star Saber every year, often multiple. I have occasionally emailed Nick and said, "Hey, I need something for a G1 piece. Have you got it for me? And can I slip you some extra money to send it to me?" And he always says no, because he'd prefer to make the money at the convention. But damn it, I try. And good on him for that. I stick to your guns, Nick. Obviously, 100% support that. But they use the profits to support Mary's Meals. And Mary's Meals is a charity started by, I believe he was a Scottish priest. But they provide food, school meals to classrooms in poor communities. They have branches in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Caribbean, the Middle East, and it really is focused not just on providing food to people who need it, but providing food to children who are at school so that they can learn and attend. And we trust Nick, obviously, but we did a bit of a Google, and as far as we can tell, they don't have any major scandals behind them. And so, I'm a very passionate educator, particularly my region of Australia has quite a number of disadvantaged people associated with it. I am, in my spare time, trying to start a local initiative to get the kids from those backgrounds into medical schools when they leave high school, because that's some of them are really, really smart, but they lack the understanding of the university system and the high school system and the medical system to know how to broach those gaps. So for me, this is sort of, it marries all of my interests, from the personal, the professional, the Transformers. But yeah, I think, feeding kids who are learning things, I don't see that many people can argue with that. Possibly the Republicans, but
right?
Yeah. That's a whole other conversation, obviously, but yeah. Certainly, giving food to hungry kids, I don't think that you can do much better than that, charity-wise.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. I mean, so like I was already excited about this book, just because of like all the cool people involved. It's like, I know a lot of these folks on Twitter, and I see a lot of great posts, a lot of terrific artwork and such being shared, as well as a really fun concept. But I mean, you add in the charity element of it also, and then that is, as some like to say, that is a insta buy. So and I wish all of you guys have the greatest of success, and it's been a success so far, and it'll be very exciting to see how the campaign develops. Now let's so we know we've got momentum on our side. You know, it's already at 63% of the next goal of 3,000 to print more copies. What happens after that?
Oh,
have you guys even discussed what happens? So let me give you an example. It's kind of like apples and oranges, but like a couple years ago, Cybertronic Spree. Who, if for folks that might not be familiar, they are the robots in disguise, and they are united by the power of rock, and they decided to do a cover album of the soundtrack of the 1986 movie, which, as we all know, is a documentary of the lives of the members of the Cybertronic Spree. But basically, they launched it on Kickstarter, and it was so massively successful that they had to keep coming up with stretch goals and new things, because like more or less like I don't think anybody was anticipating the level of support that album was going to see. And then just last year they launched their first album of original music, an album called Ravage, and a very similar thing. They did a crowdfunder for it, massively successful. They were a little more prepared for the second campaign. So I know it's not congruous, it's not apples and oranges, but this seems to be very successful so far, and I'm wondering if the team, the Thunderclash Goes Bananas squad, if you guys have kind of talked about what happens when you hit that next plateau, and even perhaps beyond.
We have had a big chat about this. We're somewhat constrained by the number of pages you can fit in a physical edition. So if you, we're already at maximum page count for a floppy collection. To add any more content would put it up to like a proper bound book, but then the unit price goes up, and we probably go down in terms of the amount that we end up giving to Mary's Meals, and we're still in the process of that. We did consider, Jim. Obviously, I'll take a chance to plug. So Jim does quite a lot of prints, and he's talking about potentially, maybe doing something like that, or adding some digital extras. But we were not. To get to 1,500 was a surprise.
Right.
To get to 3,000 will be incredible. Is there something you guys would like in there? It does get difficult because we're not allowed to make a profit on it.
Correct. Right.
Because it's unofficial. We have encountered, I won't name names, but we have asked some official Transformers related, tangentially Transformers related people if they can contribute something, and they've said it's a bit of a contractual no-go. So we are quite constrained there. What I can say is that the more we get, the more good we'll do. We will think of some stretch goals. We will be, we're trying to figure out if there's anything we can do that doesn't raise our costs or place too much of an extra administrative burden. But certainly we want to get something like that. And if anyone out there has any ideas, DM us. We're open. We would be more than happy to hear you out and support you. So, by all means.
Yeah, there's an email address set up as well, thunderclashgoesbananas@gmail.com. That's probably a good way to hit up the team, as well as on social media. They're on Twitter at TC Goes Bananas. They're on Twitter, and you could probably find the individual team members as well. I would like to do a quick screen share of the credits, and I would like to talk about again some of the awesome folks involved in this project. Now, this is my early commemorative copy, and I'm not going to scroll any further than this because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. But I have had the opportunity to see not just some of the completed artwork, but then a lot of the artwork that's still work in progress. And it is a lot of fun. This is a really fun story. And Joseph, I just now realized that, like, we've been talking about the mechanics of, like, why is the book and where is the book and how is the book? But I don't know if we've really kind of talked about exactly who is the book. Yeah. So being the writer, of course, could you kind of talk about what the story of Thunderclash Goes Bananas actually is, and then we'll talk about, like, some of the team members and a lot of the cool folks that are involved with the project, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. So the story outline is Thunderclash and the Turbo Masters are returning from a mission when they are ambushed by the Predators and their longtime rivals, and Thunderclash ends up in an escape pod that crashes on Earth and malfunctions, and acquires him a beast mode. But the Predators land on Earth, attempting to hunt him down. And the Turbo Masters, because their ship is damaged, are forced to land slightly further away, and it becomes a race against time to see who can get to Thunderclash first. Along the way, Thunderclash ingratiates himself with a tribe of a tribe, I guess is the wrong term, a pod. I don't know what the group of a clan.
Troop, I think. Troop. Yeah,
Ashley
I think
Rowe.
that. I think
Rowe, she's our monkey girl. She knows all. This is so in a massive coincidence. Ash is like, oh, by the way, I also happen to be like just a casual expert on gorillas, and so she has provided quite a lot of constructive and useful feedback on the look and the appearance and the behavior. There's a whole section in her issue that is changed from its initial scripting because she said, Joe, gorillas don't behave that way. And I was like, great, tell me what they really do, and I'll try and squeeze it into the single page where that plot event happens. And we did, and that works. And so there's Thunderclash is damaged and waiting for pickup. Will the Turbo Masters get there in time? Will the Predators get there? And what happens when the two come to a head?
I love it, and again, looping back around to the interview I did with Ashley Artley last year, and showing off that incredible piece of Skyquake menacing the gorillas.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's yeah, just makes you feel bad for any other artist in the book.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to page down through here.
They're all brilliant, but every single one of us has said, "Oh my God, what has Ash got going on?" So yeah, no, they're all brilliant, and I love them all. But every single one of them has been like, "Oh wow, Ashley has got it." And if anything, we are just delighted to be able to bring her to a wider audience because, just the stuff she puts out is incredible.
Yeah, definitely a bright young talent with a very bright future. I am a fan, and my friends are fans. So, I was very excited for this book and this opportunity. But that being said, let me scroll back up to the top here and bring back up the credits page before I get too far here. I always love, like, I do this thing when I do screen sharing on streaming platforms where it's just like I kind of do like this putters and mutters thing. I'm like, I'm just like making all these little noises to nobody in particular while I'm clicking around with stuff. So we talked about Ashley quite a bit. We talked about Jim quite a bit. Do we want to talk about Nate and Gavin? And I don't think we've even mentioned Andrew's work on letters as well. Let's shout out our friends.
Yeah, sure. So Nate is a fairly well-known Twitter artist. He does some very good stuff. He's actually quite obligingly today put up a thread of all of his quite a lot of his recent art. And can you screen share with me at all? Is that possible?
I don't know if I can screen share with you, but what I can do is
Twitter page.
I could pull up his Twitter. I've got that right here. So then I could just do one of those as I continue to putter and mutter. But yeah, I mean, Nate's stuff is awesome. I don't need to have a DM open there.
There's a lovely Turbo Masters piece there that he did for the Skytread, everyone's favorite. Yep. Here we go. The Turbo Master.
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
This was for, I believe it was TF Nation last year, did a whole little zine dedicated to the Turbo Masters or G1.5 at the very least. And so that was part of that. The Windblade is lovely. There is a very, very good one. If you scroll, keep going. It's Katra from She-Ra, the new series. Oh, yeah, top.
There it is. Yeah.
Look at that. Like,
awesome.
That is good, right? But Nate is. I don't know if Nate would agree, but I think he's most famous for his CityBot pieces. So he's got Metroplex and Fort Max, and I'm almost certain that he's got a Scorponok and a Triptychon as well. But Sixo, the toy photographer, shouted them out the other day. He also does Transformers reanimated. But he also does similar to that, one of those ones you showed before, like the old 80s packaging war shots where it's just all of the guys firing at each other, going in random directions. But he's done he's working on at the moment. Yep, there's his Seekers.
Love it.
That's the Coronation. He's very good. He's got a very unique style. That's the one. I can't remember the story behind that. I think that's some sort of exclusives piece. I think I believe that's Draculus at the back, but I am not 100% sure. But he's done quite a few in that mold as well, with various ones. He's currently working on a group shot of the Decepticons, and it won't be anywhere close to the top of his profile. I don't think he's put a link up to it for ages.
Sure.
But he's got the Combiners at the back and the Megatron at the front and the little guys all the way through. I can't find it. Sorry, but
that's all right.
It's fantastic stuff. He was one of the people on my list of artists I would one day like to work with, and I was delighted when Jim said, "Hey, I know Nate. Why don't we get them involved?" And an immediate yes from me. Then Gav, I guess, is next. Gav is, as I mentioned, he's the host of TR. Well, he's the second host of TRDQ. He's actually Repugnus's hype man. Repugnus, I think we would audiences would agree is the true star of that show.
Quite so, yes.
But Gav is a visual designer, and he draws comics as well. He's got him and a friend, and I'm going to get the name of this wrong. Hang on. I believe it's called Fantastica, Fantasia, something like that. It is a comic him and his friend have been working on. It's quite good. He loves Transformers animated, and so his characters, they all have this lovely, I don't want to say goofy style, but certainly a much more cartoonish approach than your traditional IDW G1 sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Big chins and V chests and things. But he can adapt, and he draws quite a lot of other things as well. But certainly when he's drawing in his own style, it's just, it's this phenomenally stylized, very Transformers animated influenced sort of look that I really love. And I think he was the least apprehensive about drawing all the gorillas, because he is much more used to bendy lines than some of the other artists are. But yeah, Gav hosts TRDQ. He does reviews, I think, twice a week, something like that. They're quite pleasant to watch. They last about 7 minutes at the longest. And he's actually just a really nice guy as well, despite the constant ribbing that we get. He likes to be faux outraged at things.
Right.
Yeah, so you sort of say, "Oh, Gav, can you do this?" And he'll say, "How dare you speak to me like that?" And then he'll be, "Yeah, sure."
Man,
and it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. So those are our main artists. Then we have quite a few contributors. So one of the David Cousins of IDW fame did the cover for us. It wasn't originally intended to be the cover, but when we saw it, we just went, "Yep, that's our cover." He's done a lot of formal work. He's on Twitter at David Cousins. There's Ness, who is at Bats in Belfry Art. Ness is wonderful.
My gosh, yes.
We're currently working together on a completely unrelated short Godzilla story. But when you see Ness's artwork, what stands out about Ness is not her shapes and forms; it's her colors.
It's the colors. I remember when I saw this Megatron when it was first put out. I think maybe last year, maybe year before. It's signed 2022. But yeah, I love the whole vibrant color, kind of like Lisa Frank aesthetic. Very cool.
It is very unique. I love it to death, particularly the fembots, which you've got on the screen at the moment. She approached me after another artist we're working with and I did a comic together, and said, "Hey, I really like that. Can you write one for me? Can it be about Godzilla?" And I looked at the colors that she has, and I said, "Absolutely. And can it just be full of atomic breath? Because you will nail that, And I sent her this script, and it's on her page, and I really encourage you all to look at it. It's just a short 4-page, I think it's 3 pages actually, story about Godzilla waking up and going about his day. But it's just beautiful. it starts with him waking up on the bottom of the ocean, and I pictured something like, it's dark and deep blue and gloomy because it's Godzilla and there's no light down there or something. And what she turned in was like this, reef, aquatic life, fish everywhere, colorful, beautiful, like crystal blue. I'm not a colors guy. I don't know if
I understand.
I write and not draw. I'll tell you that. But I was like, oh man, this is better than anything I had in my head. She's most recently done an RC from Rise of the Beasts, which is just fantastic.
Yeah. In fact, yeah. I just had that here. I was looking for the Godzilla piece and found the RC piece. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, so, and the thing about Ness, and a few of our others is we've tried to get people from around the world, and different backgrounds and things. So, it's nice to have a few more girls on the team.
Yes.
We've got Rhina Varka, Rinovar. I believe she's another American. Las Vegas. There you go.
Okay.
And she has a much more traditional style, but she occasionally does some little cartoony things as well. And we're doing a story about Cosmos together. And so basically, when the call came out for some contributors, I hit both of them up and I said, look, I know we're already working together, but I would really love it if you could do, and they said, yeah, sure.
That's nice.
Yeah, so Rhino, just beautiful. Again, the style all her own. She's doing a pin-up for us that is fantastic. I don't believe I've got permission to show it off, and I don't think that she has posted it anywhere, so we can't see it by mistake either. But
right.
Yeah, just another really talented artist who. The food animals. Yeah, that's what she does. She draws like the Tricitrus tops, which is like an orange Triceratops. It's funny. It's cute. It's beautiful. We're writing the story about Cosmos that we wrote is quite sad. It's about him being quite lonely up in space, and oh man, does she sell that? It is something about a cute robot looking sad is so much sadder than a
Cosmos.
No, it has a happy ending. Don't worry, but yeah. It's I can't wait for that to come out as well. Matt Palacios is one of our others. Palacios Works on Twitter. He and I did a story about landfill last year that got a huge response. I don't think any of us were expecting that. You'll be able to tell from the way I talk that I really like using characters that no one else has, because it just gives you a bit more freedom. You can make them whoever you want. Whereas Cosmos, we had to work in with his established characterizations and stuff. But landfill, like, no one cares about landfill. I can do what I want. And he does. He's got this fantastic style that's, I want to call it sort of IDW-esque. It's more Milne than some of the others, but
yeah, kind of a little Jack Lawrence in there too.
Yeah. And it's fantastic. He's doing some more stuff for it. Yeah. Andy Turnbull is one of the organizers of TF Nation, one of the biggest. Yeah, he's our letterer, so he's doing the letters for us. And he does. He's only just joined the team. I don't know him very well, but I know that he does. He's got his own comic that he's recently finished, which is about another 48-page one. God, I don't know.
That's all right, no problem.
Yeah, but he's done a lot of stuff as well, and obviously being very involved in TF Nation, he's been our sort of go-to guy for what's acceptable in terms of Hasbro, not bringing down a cease and desist order on us, because a lot of these zines and things get produced for TFN. And they have to meet strict criteria before anyone, so that no one gets in any legal trouble over it. But, he's got a fantastic Machine Wars Prime on his profile. There you go. Yeah. So he's a very, very helpful man, an excellent artist.
I love it.
Gosh, who else have we got? And TF Square One, Maz, well known as one of the hosts of Triple Takeover, and an excellent toy photographer. Who we approached Sixo initially, but he doesn't actually own the Turbo Masters. How
about that?
I think he either he didn't own them or he didn't have any group photos of them. So we went to Maz, who's done some, who does have them and had done some really excellent photography and has included some more of it for us as well. Mm-hmm. So, you'll get to see what these elusive toys actually look like.
Yeah.
And of course, I must mention the dearly departed Andrew Sorohan, well known to many people on Twitter as the guy who... so the story of Andrew, I got on Twitter, was looking for artists to work with, and I came across Andrew's stuff, as you inevitably will if you're in the Transformers fandom, and I saw that his profile lists my hometown. And the place I live is called Townsville, which most people are familiar with as a joke city from the Powerpuff Girls. But it's actually named after a fellow called Robert Towns, but like Townsville, everyone's like,
sure.
Yeah, it's City. And I just messaged him and I said, sorry, is this like a Powerpuff Girls joke? Are you actually from where I'm from? And he said, yeah, no, I live in Townsville. And he gave me his street address, and it's walking distance from my house. And so I was like, hey, man, do you want to hang out sometime? And he was like, yeah, sure. And he took me through his entire Transformers collection, and it is mind-blowing. Just the sheer amount and uniqueness of some of the stuff he's got is incredible. But what he's really good at is he's very good at drawing, and he used to do these like toy line designs where he'd come up with his own gimmicks and draw them and how they'd work and how they'd transform. And he did like a series of water pistol Transformers and inflatable pool toy Transformers and stuff. And he created that meme that you'll see around on Reddit and Twitter where it's like design your own toy line, and it has like the leaders.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he made that. He invented
the brackets and stuff.
Yeah. And he was really interested in repaints and how obscure he could get with them. And so there's a chart that he made of like Seekers in every possible variant from the Sunbow cartoon, all the animation errors and everything like that. Like, the man is exhaustive. And he ran a Transformers website called the obscuretransformers.com, which was sort of a progenitor of TF Wiki. Very, very respected man. And unfortunately, early this year, he died very suddenly. He had thankfully finished the stuff we commissioned from him for it, which was a series of Generations Turbo Master toy concepts, which really is fantastic, and you'll have to see what he's done there. It's incredible what he came up with. I would buy it in an instant if it was real. But yes, unfortunately, he sadly passed away unexpectedly. And I attended his funeral, and the number of people who sent in Twitter and Facebook and condolences from the Transformer. His family were overwhelmed. They had no idea how well known he was. And I pointed out to them who some of these people were. I was like, oh, that's James Roberts. He wrote this this fantastic, what is widely agreed to be the best Transformers story, second only to the movie, which holds honorary first place and probably isn't all that good if we're being honest with ourselves. That's Nick Roche. He drew X, Y, Z, and all these like really well known. And I was like, your son was very well respected and well known. And they had some idea, but I don't think they had an idea of the extent to which the world of Transformers fans was shocked by his passing. So it is nice to have him in that book. We did have to get his he had finished before he died, so that's nice for us, obviously. But it's we're going to give a copy to his family just as a sort of commemorative thank you thing. I don't know if they'll keep it or not. They don't have to do anything with it.
Sure.
But, he's actually I think it's still on. I didn't manage to get to it. He has an exhibit in one of our local art spaces of just all of his Transformers and various other art pieces that he's done, and some of his toys and things. Like he was a big deal, and we were very lucky that he was willing to contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a delightful tribute to have that to have those concepts included in the book as well. It's very cool that one, he was able to complete these pieces, but also that they were in a condition that you were able to include them.
Yes,
I just happen to be looking at that in the page right now in my advanced copy, and it is terrific stuff. It's very cool.
And that's not even all of it. That's just all we could fit. There are pages. The man was incredible. You just say, oh, can you draw this? And 20 minutes. I wrote him a comic. There was an anthology that we wanted to pitch together. And the theme was that there was a one-page story, and the main character had to start the story by forgetting something. And I wrote a little story. It was just a sweet little story about a little old lady with dementia. And I sent it to him. I said, "What do you think of this?" And 10 minutes later, he handed it back to me, and it was perfect. And I just thought, God, the productiveness of this man is incredible. So yeah, we unfortunately we lost a real talent there, but it's great that he was willing to be on board.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's. Again, it's unfortunate, it's sad, but it's also heartwarming to see that the work does get to continue and be have an exhibition for it. So the book is Thunderclash Goes Bananas. Again, it is a Transformers fan comic written, drawn, and lettered by a group of Transformers fans with the aim of raising much needed monies for Mary's Meals in association with Toy Foo. It's a charity working to feed hungry children across the world. You can visit the coffee shop to donate and either get a digital copy, or you could get the print edition. You can visit the shop, pre-order your copy for this upcoming 60-page one-shot comic to be released later this year. And again, you can contact the team at Thunderclash Goes Bananas, gmail.com if you would like to order bulk copies, because now with the extra funds that the project has seen so far, it's being very successful. They could print more copies, get more into the world, and that just means more monies for Mary's Meals, which is incredible. The book is very exciting. I really want to congratulate you and the team on your success so far, as well as your success coming up in the future. Before we part ways for now, Joe, a question I ask all of my guests that are creators, whether they be writers, artists, podcasters, musicians, authors, which is just another way of saying writers. But the thing I always like to ask my creative friends is what advice that they would have for folks that are looking to pursue their own creative interests. So, Joe England, Dr. Brainstorm, actual doctor, what advice would you have for the kiddies out there?
The best piece of advice I've ever been given is it is much easier to rewrite something bad than to write something good. And so just do it. Like, the first draft of this book had whole sections that would just say something like, Thunderclash needs to go from the pod to the jungle and become a gorilla on the way, and you can sort that out later, and then move on to the second page. And so the first draft is for you. And it's once you've got a skeleton there, you can make it. It's so much easier. As I say, it's so much easier to rewrite something than to write it in the first place. Don't worry about the first draft. Just get it done, and then it will hurt you. It will hurt you to read the nonsense and the badness of your first draft, but you will see how to make it good. And you won't be able. You won't be able to do that as you go, and you shouldn't try to. It's the best advice I've ever been given. 90% of the stuff I work with is starts out as a skeleton of interconnected set pieces that I want to have in there. There's a whole running theme in Thunderclash Goes Bananas about communication. There's a subplot where two characters won't talk about something important out of misunderstanding how the other person will feel about it, and that's mirrored in a later subplot between two other characters, and it all looks very official and well thought out. And no, that was like the last thing that was added to the book. So you will see things as you go over your draft that weren't there the first time and will make the whole thing better. It's always easier to rewrite something bad than to write something good.
Gotcha. That's terrific advice. I like that. I've got a number of friends that are writers and authors. So I am neither. I'm just a guy that talks into a camera and a microphone from time to time. So I'm endlessly fascinated by how different folks tackle that creative process. So I really appreciate the insight, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join me here on the live stream to talk about Thunderclash Goes Bananas. And again, I just dropped a link in the comments. It's a coffee site, so it's ko-fi.com Facebook.com/Thunderclash Goes Bananas. There's also additional links in the show notes for you to find the crowdfunder as well as find the creators out on their social medias as well, and check them all out and commission their works when they're available. We definitely want to support our independent artists and really keep the thing going.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So before we sign off, so we've talked a lot about Thunderclash Goes Bananas. Is there anything else that you have coming up, Joe, that you would like to promote?
Look, I don't. When I work with artists, I let them post it. They're the ones that are getting the commissions and things out of it. They should have it on their page, not mine. But I will say that Rhino Varka and I are working on the Cosmos story. Ness and I are doing the Godzilla story. Sammy Sadek and I are doing a story about misfire, going back in time and accidentally causing the Kennedy assassination, which... look, if I can turn that into another one, that's going to a full 48-pager. But it's probably my favorite thing I've ever written. But check out all those artists. All my stuff will be on their pages.
Gotcha. And if folks wanted to connect with you on the internet on social medias, where can we find you?
So I mostly hang out on Twitter at _ hang on. How does Twitter work again? It's at brainstorm _dr for doctor on Twitter. That's the best place to get hold of me. I have other social medias, but they're much more sort of work focused or
sure.
And they're probably not interesting to any of you guys. So yeah.
I gotcha. All right. Well, this has been an absolute blast. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. We'll have to do this again sometime, and maybe with some of our international friends as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And that will wrap things up for this episode. Thank you so much for listening and for hanging out with us. And if you want to listen to my podcast, Mike Seibert Radio, you can subscribe on Apple Podcast and Stitcher and Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and wherever the heck else you find podcasts. Like, share, rate, and review the show. Let me know what you like and what you would like to hear more of in the future. For my guest writer, Joe England, Dr. Brainstorm himself, my name is Mike. This has been Mike Seibert Radio. And until next time, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and make good choices. Till all are one. Good night, or good morning. Good day to you, sir.
G'day, mate.
Oh, there we go. We did it. I got a real Australian good day. So there we go. I am satisfied.
There you go.
Mike Seibert Radio is recorded in Seattle, Washington. Our original theme song is written and performed by Lucia Fasano. Get her music on all streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, and check out her Instagram at Lucia_Fasano. Our closing theme song is A Nice Place to Visit by These Young Fools, used with permission from Michael Geissler. Check out Michael's website, bytourmusic.com. Special thanks to Andy Lita for our logos and graphic design. He's at GoGoAndyRobo out on Twitter. Become a Mike Cybertronian and join the MSRP Friends and Fans Facebook group, and you can follow me on all the social media at Mike Seibert Radio on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And check out my YouTube channel for even more videos, and subscribe so you never miss a show. Want to be a guest on the show? Send me an email, MikeSeibertRadio@gmail.com. So before I get out of here, I promised you that I would give you an update on the wrap of the Thunderclash Goes Bananas project and share some terrific news with you. So on June 1st, Thunderclash Goes Bananas achieved their second milestone goal of 3,000 pounds. And congratulations to the lucky backer who pushed them over the edge. It was artist Winston Chan, who has done both covers and interiors for IDW's Beast Wars comic. His stuff is awesome, and you should definitely go follow him on Twitter. Anyhow, I mentioned that because Winston was literally just a couple seconds ahead of me for backing the project. I was actually hoping to be the last backer to help them meet the funding goal, but I'm just happy the project is a success. Like they put out a post, a tweet saying, "Hey man, we're almost there. All it's going to take is one more backer," and I hadn't backed the project yet, so I'm like, right up my alley. Winston was just a couple clicks ahead of me, I guess. But anyhow, in that time since, they've crossed 250 backers. But that also means that all good things must come to an end. So this from their Ko-fi, I still don't know the pronunciation. But anyway, from their website, quote, "We've been talking to the printer and now have a firm date for final physical orders. The physical shop will close on midnight, Sunday, the 2nd of July. After that, we'll put in our print run order and no future physical release will be planned. Then it's just a hop, skip, and a jump until we get it posted and into your hot little hands. However, we're likely to have some leftover copies. Once we've sent everyone their order, the shop will reopen to sell off the final remaining physical copies. Now, the digital shop will not be closing at all. Feel free to order digital copies to your heart's content. So if you haven't gotten your orders in, now is the time. And thanks again for your incredible support. So, if you want a physical copy of Thunderclash Goes Bananas like I did, you've got until midnight next Sunday, July 2nd, to get in your order. However, you will still be able to continue to order digital copies of the book, and every dollar raised means there's more to give to Toy Foo in aid of Mary's Meals. So still opportunity to help out there. All of the information is available in the show notes of this podcast. And I also wanted to remind you that Ashley Artley, the artist of Chapter 2 of Thunderclash Goes Bananas, will have a dealer table at Seibert Northwest 2023. That's July 8th in Kent, Washington. Along with yours truly, I will be hosting the panel room, and I'll be there at Seibert. So if you are in the Pacific Northwest, come visit us. Talk to Ashley about gorillas and her contributions to Thunderclash Goes Bananas, and buy some of her art as well, because it's really cool. I have no art to sell, but if you want to see me while I'm hosting panels and come by and say hi, I'll gladly kiss your hands and shake your babies or whatever. But again, thank you so much, and we'll see you there.